Today's video is going to be focusing very much on ball striking, and I'm going to give you 5 simple yet effective tips which can really help you strike your irons better, pure them more at the middle, and ultimately that is going to lower your score. So stay tuned for 5 awesome tips to help you with your ball striking. Nice shot. So welcome back to the Forest of Arden. We're out on the golf course again, the 13th hole. It is January, however today it's pretty good. It's kind of double figures in temperature. It's fairly warm, it's dry, and it's not that windy. So we're using the golf course to film a video to help you with ball striking. And in my experience, there aren't many golfers that come to me for lessons who couldn't benefit from just striking the irons a little bit better from the ground. That can be more in terms of where the ball is struck in the face, or just how the club is delivered to the ball in order to give them the desired flights. Just before we get into those 5 tips, if you're not a subscriber, there is a clickable link in the description box down below. It's absolutely free, and it just means that you won't miss any of the upcoming videos. I'm pretty confident these videos can help you play some better golf. So let's get straight into these tips with tip number 1. So this first tip is really just based around setup and starting position and just getting your weight distribution correct. When you're hitting your iron shots from the ground, I'd love you to set up with slightly more of your weight on your lead leg. Now we are talking slight, so if you could use percentages, I'd love you to feel 55% on your lead leg, leaving 45% on your trail leg. And the way you're going to do that is just with your knees and your hips and just feeling they bump slightly towards the target. So my head is going to stay pretty much in the middle of my heels, but I'm feeling like I shift that pressure onto my lead side just by using my knees and my hips. And if you look closely at that, you should just see a little bit of a shift towards the target at setup. We're really trying to look at where we'd like to be at impact and presetting a little bit of that at setup. So tip number 1 is to get your setup correct and your weight distribution in order. Making a good center turn is tip number 2, and this one's absolutely key to ball striking, because we can make things a lot more difficult for ourselves if we shift our upper body off the target, our lower body off the target, or in many cases both of those shift to the right. It's so much more difficult to achieve that correct impact. So what I've done here is I've taken my alignment stick and just placed it in the ground. So when I take my starting address to this golf ball, I've got a reference point which I can see relative to the ball on the ground. It gives me much more awareness of the difference between a golf swing where I'm very centered and a golf swing where I'm laterally shifting off the golf ball to the right. Suddenly the relationship between the ball and that alignment stick changes when I make that pull move. So this is a great station, and we could actually get you to go ahead and hit some little shots from here, trying to keep the relationship between the alignment stick and the golf ball the same as you swing back. And that's certainly going to help you with your ball striking and get that club landing on the ground, target side of the golf ball. Tip number 3 is to do with the length of the swing and the radius of your golf swing. Radius being the distance between your hands and your chest in that golf swing. Now what I'd love you to do, certainly with these iron shots, when we're looking for potentially a little bit more control, but this is going to be linked to ball striking as well, is trying to keep those hands fairly short in the backswing. As a reference point, I would like to see the hands kind of outside of the knee that you can see I'm demonstrating there as a reference points. What I'll often see is a golfer makes a pretty good turn, they get themselves into a fairly good position here, but then suddenly the radius narrows, the arms bend, the club travels too far, the hands travel too far, and what's happened there is that the arc of the swing has become too narrow. The relationship between the hands and the body isn't as good as it could be, they're not as much in sync, and suddenly the delivery of the golf club to the ball just becomes more inconsistent. It doesn't necessarily cause left or right, but inconsistency in the ball striking. So the third point really is to try and get you to feel a nice full turn, but feel like the arms are very much out in front of you in the backswing. It's going to make it much easier for you to sync things up on the way down and ultimately deliver that club to the ball more consistently and have that strike more solid. Tip number 4 is all to do with weight shift and looking at something that we tend to see from all the good ball strikers. If we look at the best in the world who strike the ball as we aspire to strike it, generally speaking, by the time their lead arm is level with the ground on the downswing, they have got at least 70% of their weight on their lead side, normally around about 80%. That's not what we tend to see from the amateurs. Now, it's very difficult for you to actually measure this, as you can imagine, but just that having that as a concept is really quite important. So as you're practicing, you can just make your backswing and just making sure that you're shifting fairly early into that lead side, and I can start to build some feeling of pressure under that lead side by the time my lead arm is level with the ground. All too often we'll see at this point in the golf swing, the golfer's too centered or even too much on the trail foot. And as you can imagine, in terms of time, from the club to the ball, a very short space of time doesn't give us a lot of chance to rectify those poor movements. So I really want you to focus on, once you've completed your sort of backswing, shifting early and trying to get the sensation of loading that lead side by the time your hands reach about your chest height in the downswing, because that's then going to enable you to stabilize that weight and that pressure as you deliver the club to the ball. Much more consistent way of striking those irons. And the last point to help you with ball striking is to do with rotation and connection. I'm going to take a golf glove here and I'm going to place it as high as I can under my lead arm. If I do it a little differently so you can see it. So what I really want you to focus on here in these exercises is making some little short swings and feeling that you squeeze your lead arm against your chest, keeping that glove in place as you very much focus on rotating this belt buckle and those hips towards the target. So we've got rotation and connection, two things which are really, really important. If you don't have rotation, the arms are traveling at some speed, so their natural movement would be to start to make this movement here. Because the arms are traveling, the lower body isn't, we get that separation and the lead arm disconnects. That shortens the radius, we get thins. You can get fat shots when we try and lower ourselves to strike it better. So a little exercise where you place a glove under your lead arm and your thought process is to squeeze the glove and rotate the belt buckle towards the target. And I'd really like you to do that over a short distance. That ball's maybe gone 60 yards. But again, I'm looking for this nice strong finish where I've got rotation through my lower body, connection through my lead arm. And that's really going to help me keep the arc and the shape of the swing constant, which is really going to help me with my ball striking. So 5 exercises, tips, concepts, drills, whatever you want to call them, which can really help you elevate your ball striking. And trust me, if we can just get you to strike the ball better, more at the center of the club more consistently, the scores will come tumbling down because the ball is going to go the same distance every time. The curve on it's going to be more predictable. The trajectory is going to be more predictable, and you're going to find yourselves up and around the green a lot more often. It's just then down to your short game whether you can get yourself a par. So 5 tips which can help you with your ball striking. I really hope they're going to help you with your game. Would love to hear your thoughts in the comments box down below. And also if you've got any suggestions on videos going forwards, I'd love to hear those as well, so I can try and tailor this content to make it more specific to you and your needs this season. Thank you very much for watching. Usual stuff is down below. Comments box already said. Like button down there. Please give it a thumbs up if you liked it. Share this video with someone who you think could benefit. And give that subscribe button a little click if you're not already a member of our community. As I said, it is absolutely free. Thanks for watching. We'll see you back here again soon.